Thanks. So I'm here representing a joint marketing effort that was funded by Buoy, Maine, and we could not have done it without the funding from Buoy, Maine, so thank you so much. This project was developing a new brand, Damariscotta River Oysters, Maine Fresh. The Damariscotta River Oyster Farms have a history of working together to understand shared challenges. They collaborated and worked together after the 2010 MSX outbreak. They also collaborated and developed a Vibrio control plan. And finally, we've worked together to build the Damariscotta River Oyster Celebration, which is an early summer event showcasing the oyster farms on the river, educating the public about how oysters are grown all the way from the hatchery to market, and bringing together growers and partners, including the Darling Marine Center and the Coastal Rivers Land Conservation. We were just starting to work on the new joint marketing effort when COVID hit. And at that point, no farm had the capacity or resources to work together on that externally focused project. We all had to shift and help our own farms survive that initial market crash. But Buoy, Maine funding allowed us to return to this collaborative effort. We seek to highlight the unique qualities of the Damariscotta River oysters and the farms that grow them. We all grow our oysters a little bit differently, and so there are differences among the oysters from the different farms. And ultimately, the aim is to gain national recognition for oysters farmed in this river as premier oysters, which is akin to the way wine produced in Napa Valley is recognized worldwide. We engaged the efforts of Maine, which is a Portland-based marketing company. They developed our shared story. So the Damariscotta River oysters represent the origin of modern aquaculture in Maine. We have a strong emphasis on science and innovation throughout the 35+ year history of farming oysters on the Damariscotta River. We've also focused during that time on ecological sustainability and community building, developing partnerships with the scientists at Bigelow Laboratory for Ocean Sciences and at the Darling Marine Center, and with ecologists and educators at the Coastal Rivers Conservation Trust. The unique characteristics of the Upper Damariscotta estuary and the Great Salt Bay create one of the most nutrient-rich oyster habitats in Maine. And while we represent the origin of modern aquaculture in Maine, we also acknowledge the history of the region as a historical oyster habitat where natives were harvested by the indigenous people of that area. And we're really proud that aquaculture has brought the native species back to the area. So our marketing effort engaged 9 of the 11 farms on the river, Great Salt Bay Oyster Company, Muscungus Bay Aquaculture, Dodge Cove Marine Farms, Glidden Point Oyster Farms, Mook Sea Farm, Pemaquid Oyster Company, Norumbega Oyster Company, Heron Island Oysters, and Johns River Oysters. Our work with Maine has developed a map, which you can come over and see. It shows where each farm is, as well as the broad extent of our impact on the community around the Damariscotta River and mid-coast Maine in general. It highlights different businesses and restaurants that either offer tours of the farms or sell oysters from any of the Damariscotta River farms, or simply our partners on the river. The map on the back side tells the story of all of the Damariscotta River oysters together, but the specific stories of each farm individually. It points out which farms offer tours so that people who are interested can head on over, and which community businesses offer tours. It will be a key focal point for the next Damariscotta River Oyster Celebration, which we hope will take place in June 2022. We'd hoped it would take place in June 2021, but that didn't happen. The map today that I have is a work in progress. We're still adding additional points of interest and location to show the full extent of the economic impact of the Damariscotta River oysters in this area. And Maine has developed a website that will tell the story of our oysters and of each specific farm, and will point consumers and those who are interested towards where they can go to buy our oysters, either online directly from the farm, through other vendors, or in person at fish markets or restaurants. And the website will be the living document that gets updated as changes happen, whereas the map will be a printed document that gets distributed to local restaurants and businesses to let consumers know where else they can go to learn more about Damariscotta River oysters or enjoy them. And the biggest lesson that we've learned through this is that not all farms have the capacity or even the desire to contribute equally to the project. So we've struggled to gather the needed information from each farm. We have faced communication difficulties among the farms, ranging simply from finding a time that we can all meet and have a representative from each farm involved, because some farms are out on the water earlier in the day, and some farms are out later in the day, and it's very challenging to find a time when we can all connect. We've also had difficulties meeting internal deadlines of sending information back that is necessary to include in the development of the map or the website. So I haven't identified a specific solution to these issues, although it's certainly something that we have talked about among ourselves as being an issue. However, one thing that I am thinking is that we might have been well served by developing an internal contract laying out expectations for each farm when they agreed to be involved in this project, so that they would have a firm understanding of what was expected of them and what they would be expected to contribute to the project. So that's one of the ideas that I have that I'm hoping that other efforts might be able to learn from that idea, although I can't necessarily at this point go back in time and enact that for this specific project. Additionally, so none of our farms employ a marketer, and so we went to Maine with a very unclear description of what we were looking for. And they have done a very admirable job of taking our unclear description and giving us a product, the map and the website and the descriptions of the farm, that really capture what we were trying to do. And yet that was something that really slowed us down as well, because we struggled to articulate to them exactly what we were looking for. And then our next steps include finalizing this map to include all of the points of interest that we wish to include. And then we will be employing a PR firm to officially launch the brand by sending out press releases and engaging social media influencers. And then all of this effort will be used to get the next Damariscotta River Oyster celebration off the ground and going in hopefully next year, June of 2022. And this celebration really highlights education and community, and is intended to be a celebration that is beyond simply the farms on the river, but also all of the businesses around the area that are benefited by the farms. So, thank you so much.